So, once again, welcome you all to the live interaction session. And let me share my screen. Okay, so I've shared my screen now. Okay, so hope my screen is visible to you all. So once again, welcome you all to this live interaction session of NPTEL Environmental Impact Assessment. The course instructor is Professor Harshit Sosan Lagra. She is Assistant Professor in Department of Architecture and Planning, IIT Roorkee. I am Rohit. I am PMR scholar in IIT Bombay. I will be taking this live interaction session for NPTEL course. So okay, so we'll follow the teaching methodology. The topics which are taught in the weekly lectures will be discussed here. So how they will be discussed? We'll be solving the assignment questions from previous run of this courses, and then whatever topics comes in between, we will also discuss those topics on the go. Apart from that, the any doubts which are raised during solving these assignment questions, please feel free to ask, because this is for the interaction of students, and you can always ask your questions during this session, or you can raise it on the discussion forum. Okay, and also you can use the chat box, that is the white box in the meeting, so please feel free to raise your questions. So the first question is, as per European Landscape Convention, the landscape includes rural areas, urban townscapes, and marine seascapes. So basically, European Landscape Convention was an important convention for defining the landscape actually. So landscape actually involves rural areas, urban townscapes, and marine seascapes. So all of these, this statement is actually true. So the correct answer is true. Okay, now let's know more about this European Landscape Convention. What is this European Landscape Convention? What does it mean? Okay, so basically, European Landscape Convention happened in Florence on 20 October 2000, and it defined landscape as a zone or area as perceived by local people or visitors whose visual features and character are result of the action of natural or cultural, that is human factors. Okay, this is the definition of landscape, European Landscape Convention. Okay, so this is actually good definition. So basically it talks about the visual features also, because landscapes have some specific features and character is also important. So for what is the requirement of the landscape? Okay, is it natural or is it cultural factor that is affecting the landscape or the zone? Okay, so it can be a zone, area, okay, anything. So this is the definition of landscape. Now, you need to know that why such attempts at definition and statements are very important. So basically, European Landscape Convention also 2008. So it defined the landscape. Then it defined the multi-scalar landscape approach to planning and design. Okay, so this was in 2008. So multi-scalar landscape approach to planning and design, from vast landscape plan to local and architectural design. And then in 2021, landscape resilience was actually introduced. The community-based approaches, people-oriented design, place-related design were more looked into. Then ecological, economic, social, aesthetic, and territorial perspective. Then we have a strategic and regulatory perspective also. So all these things actually incorporated, and then a more broader view about this landscape actually emerged from these conventions. So let us see some of these. I've added some of the videos that are actually that will help you understand these conventions. One of the conventions for international conference cultivating continuity of the European landscape 1 year later. Okay, then we'll see the World Heritage explained animated short video about the UNESCO World Heritage Convention. So it also talked about the cultural landscape type of thing, like UNESCO, United Nation of for agency for the cultural and scientific education. Okay. Oh, see. So, that can also be required to be preserved. Okay, so the next question is match the terms given in group A with group B. Okay, so group A has natural factors of landscape. So natural factors of landscape, basically you have to search for the natural factors. So air, climate, hydrology, land cover are the natural factors of the landscape. So P is 2. Perceptual and aesthetic factors of the landscape. So perceptual and aesthetic factors, so something that you can feel or touch. Okay, so touch, feel, preferences, association, memories. Cultural and social factors, land ownership, settlement. So P2, Q3, R1, this is the correct answer. So this has been taken itself from the slides of the weekly lectures. So factor that contribute to the landscape, natural factor like geology, okay, landform, different landforms can be there, hydrology, air and climate, soils, land cover, flora and fauna. Factors that contribute to the landscape, cultural, social factor, land use, settlement, enclosure, land ownership, time depth, etc. The social, cultural, and social factors. Similarly, perceptual and aesthetic factors like sight, something, color, texture, pattern, form, sound, smell, touch, feel, preferences, associations, memories. Okay, so all these things are very much important. So I think I've added this. What is the landscape approach? So this is actually quite like a studied phenomena. So people are actually working more and more into landscape approach. So IUCN is basically International Union for Conservation of Nature. So they have actually defined what is a landscape approach. Okay, so let's see. Let's, so all these things are actually pretty much important. They are now Whenever a broader view, a broader sense has to be developed, then these approaches has to be kept in mind and then more worked into, especially when you are studying something called environmental impact assessment, which is one of kind of course that can be utilized to judge a project which can be implemented or not, the stakeholders view. All these things are very much important when you talk about environmental impact assessment. So now we'll move to the third question. So this is similar to question 2 which you have seen. So you have to match the terms given in group A with group B based on the corporate report on the NASA character area profiles. So coherence, what is the meaning of coherence? Stewardship, disturbance, historicity. So coherence is basically spatial arrangement of vegetation. Okay. Stewardship is something level of management for the vegetation. Then we have disturbance, which is visual impact of disturbance. Okay, historicity is vegetation with the continuity. So P2, Q1, R4, S3. So the correct answer is answer A. Okay. Now, possible criteria for capturing visual character like complexity, coherence, disturbance, stewardship, imageability, visual scale, naturalness. So all these things are actually important for capturing the visual character of anything. Okay. Now the question 4 is what term describes the area that can potentially be affected by the development of a project? Based on the methods of environmental and social impact assessment, landscape and visual, Rebecca Knight and Ricky Thrivel 2018. So that can be potentially affected by the development of a project. So basically, whenever some project is actually developed or somewhere, so area or zone is actually affected. So potentially be affected. So that zone or area is called zone of theoretical visibility. Okay. So we'll learn much more about this zone of theoretical visibility in the upcoming slides. So I put some of the slides so that you guys can make yourself familiar with the zone of theoretical visibility, how it is evaluated or look like. So correct answer is answer A. Now, zone of theoretical visibility, the term zone of theoretical visibility is used to describe the area over which a development can be theoretically be seen. So it is something represented by some software or some programs. So it is basically a theoretical dimensions of seeing a zone where some project is going to be implemented. So for this digital terrain model or digital surface model, DSM can be used. So DTM is a 3D computer model or surface without any surface objects. DSM is computer generated model that represents the surface height including trees and buildings. Okay. So DTM and DSM both are very important. So a ZTV is sometimes known as zone of visual influence or visual influence map. So remember this question can be asked about this also, zone of visual influence, or the options can contain these two terms also. So don't be confused whenever there is something some zone which is getting impacted because of the some potential project, so that can be termed as ZTV, zone of theoretical visibility, zone of visual influence, or visual envelope map. And the extent of visibility will also depend on the size and prominence of the development being considered. Okay, so if you are carrying some, like if you are building a building only, just a house, so the impact will be much lesser size than building a project or big universities that can have a big impact. Okay, so you can see a zone of theoretical visibility Win Hill farm lived in North Yorkshire. So this was the zone Bare Earth JTV zone of theoretical visibility for a medium-sized wind turbine near Malton in North Yorkshire. The Bare Earth JTV is based on a terrain model which disregards any visual obstruction, which is clearly when compared to the with obstruction JTV following me. So this is how it will look like with obstruction. Win Hill farm living in North Yorkshire. So with woodland and building obstructions. Okay. So you can see here without obstruction, with obstruction, there can be. Okay, so compared with the previous image, so the fragmented and reduced area of zone of theoretical visibility. So JTV is being used to make judgments about the visibility of a development. This provides a more accurate impressions. Okay. Similarly, example from Matlock Road on Washington, you can see the impacts here. So this is JTV for housing development in Washington. So whereas JTV initially looked quite daunting, so it looks quite. You can see zone of theoretical visibility here, but after, however, when woodland and building data are included, the JTV presents a more realistic impression of the actual visibility. Okay. Similarly, for Great Western Railway electrification, okay, so JTV covered length of the railway line from Reading to Bristol. So Reading and Bristol are two cities in United Kingdom. So using large-scale terrain mapping and combining around 1600 individual JTV to create a heat map. Okay, and then more detailed and JTV 100-meter interval points are provided for land during the AONBs, and this one being the Cotswolds. Okay, so all these are actually cities in England. This is Great Western Railway Electrification 3, and this being the Chilterns near Goring Gap. So in each case, bare earth and with obstructions providing insights into the areas most likely be affected. Okay, so all these things you can see here. Zone of theoretical visibility example for 3D JTV Burnett House Development Hull 1. So we were approached by Iguana Developments Limited in relation to the proposed Burnett House development in the conservative area of Hull. So this is okay, Hull city. This is the Burnett House. So what are the basic GTV was generated in Google Earth. The target point is roughly the height of the Hullminster Tower pinnacles and its position on the south face of the tower to minimize the pinnacles. In the result, it shows the extent of shadowing by Bonnet House of the A63 and Queen Street. Okay, so you can see the extent of shadowing that it can cause actually. These are different positions 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so this was about the zone of theoretical visibility. Okay, so if there are any question which you want to ask to me, please feel free to ask. Let me see if there are any questions. No questions. Okay, so I think if there are no questions, then we can move to the next slides because we have got a lot number of slides, and I think it's pretty useful to discuss all these slides in a much comprehensive manner so that you guys can understand about so whatever questions are being asked in the exam. So those questions are basically from the lecture slides only, but you need to understand the different concepts which are there in these questions. So if you understand the zone of theoretical visibility, if you understand the different factors that affect the landscape, so that is all. You just have to understand, then you can mark the answers very easily in the exam. Okay, so now let's move to look this. Question 5. So this is also matching group A with group B. So group A, large, medium, small, imperceptible, no change. So something you need to know about, you can get it from the slides itself. So basically the large is basically change of landscape given in group A with definition in group B. So what can be said to be a large change in landscape? So basically, minor, no, perceptual, no, discernible change, no, an obvious change in landscape element, character and quality of the landscape. Okay, so this is the large. Okay, now medium we have uh, Q is this discernible change in landscape element, character, quality of landscape. Okay, then the small is minor change. Okay, imperceptible, no change, then no perceptible. So this is quite easy actually. Imperceptible, no change, so no perceptible change in landscape element, character, quality of landscape. So this is basically from here possible definition of the scale of landscape change. So large is obvious change, okay, medium is discernible change, small is a minor change, okay, imperceptible, no change, in no perceptible change in landscape elements. Okay. Now we have this state true or false. Allowing appropriate mitigation and investment is one of the purposes of historical and physical assessment. So allowing appropriate mitigation and investment is one of the purposes of historical and physical assessment. Okay, so this is actually a true statement. Okay, so historical and physical assessment is basically done to allow appropriate mitigation and investment. Okay. So this I taken from the slides also. So the purpose for conducting a historical and physical assessment is to provide information about the impacts of the development on the cultural heritage. So if there is a cultural heritage, then you have to assess the different impacts of the development that is going on the surrounding area on this cultural heritage to make impact available to the decision maker. So this also, you do assessment, then basically you are presenting the fact to the decision maker to make informed decision, so to allow appropriate mitigation and investment. So if there is something that needs to be mitigated or some investment is needed, so decision maker can take a call on this also. So the image below is an example of historical cultural landscape from which country? So this is a cultural landscape which you can see here. Okay. So this is kind of city or town, but you can see the different patterns here, a kind of flower. Okay, so the way it looks like is tremendous. So this is a landscape actually. The how beautiful a man-made landscape is also. So does it mean that a combination of man-made and natural can also look like can also make a more beautiful landscape or historical or cultural landscape. So this is I think from the Italy. So correct answer is B. Okay, so historical and cultural landscape. So this is Nazca lines in Peru. You can see the Nazca lines here. I think this is for a spider or something. So they have made a Nazca lines in Peru. Peru. Then this is Palma Nova, Italy. Okay, Italian ways. Okay, so basically, I think we need more such cultural landscapes. So this is a very important a conversation or a video here that tells us about the cultural landscape and prepared by our climate change. So I think let's see if it's not long. We can play it here. Yeah, we can actually. you must have got a good understanding about the different cultural landscape and how they are contributing to the coexistence. So this was a very important video that explained the different ethnic and religious terms of the cultural landscapes. Okay, so if there are any question which you want to ask, please feel free to ask. Otherwise, I think you guys can go through the slides again and then see if you want to ask anything to me. Okay. So try to solve this question. This is an important question from field survey techniques. So there are field survey techniques given in group A, and then you have matched on these field survey techniques in group A to group B. So I think the words itself explain the purpose in group B. So I am sure you will be able to solve this group A and group B and these two. So I've included a lot of slides on these survey techniques. So I think these were very important field survey techniques. So I try to include as much slides as I can so that you guys can have a good idea about what these survey techniques actually mean. So please try to solve it. Try to see what does these survey techniques actually mean. Okay, so did you guys solve it? Okay, so I think we can try. I think you should keep trying. This is a quite a easy question. I think you can solve it easily. So keep trying. Okay, so let's see. No one. Okay, so don't worry, we'll solve this question. So this was a pretty easy question, I think. Resistivity survey. So resistivity survey is something that measures the ground resistance. Okay. So electric current is passed and ground resistance, and the change in resistance actually indicate the nature and location of some buried features. So this is magnetometer survey. Magnetic properties of the soil is looked into and used to identify location of past human activity, period of burning, hunting. Auger is type of screw. Okay, so it's something that is buried beneath something, a soil or sand, then augering is used. So most frequently used in river valleys. Okay, so where deposition and cover the land surface. Test pitting is something hand excavation by creating small pits of plant sizes. Okay, plant sizes. So correct answer is P3 Q4 R2 S1. Okay, so I think now it's clear. The correct answer is P3 Q4 R2 S1. The correct answer is answer D. Now, field survey techniques. So there geophysical techniques. Okay, purpose change in characteristic and properties of the ground. So in geophysical techniques, we basically see the change in characteristic and properties of the ground. So some of the techniques that include resistivity survey measures ground resistance to the progress of an electric current. Change in resistance indicate nature and location of buried features. Then we have magnetometer survey measures the magnetic properties of the soil and used to identify locations of the past human activity, period of burning, hunting. Then we have augering, like most frequently used in river valleys where deposition has covered the land surface. In the process, soil sequence are recorded through auger holes and maps are prepared. Okay. Then we have test pitting. Okay, hand excavation by creating small pits of plant sizes. Okay, then test pits can be of different sizes as per requirements. Analysis of different artifact. Recovery rate over area indicates date, location, extent of the surveyed site. Machine trenching can also be done. Can also be done or done. Okay. So this is actually is a taste pitting. So you put a ground, then you clear the side, then you study. Okay, record, enter the side. Okay, this is how it is done. Okay, this is kind of taste pitting. This is how it looks like. So you make a test pit, then you go on removing the soil, and then whatever is found, then you record it down. So layer wise, you found the artifacts layer wise, artifacts or something layer wise. So with each layer, you know that the recent layer may be of more modern than something which is found at much deeper layer is more ancient. So this is how test pitting is done. So you can see it here. Moreover, these test fittings are actually useful in doing archaeological type of surveys, so they are very much used. Okay, so you can see the test pit recording sheet for a layer or fill. Okay, earthwork survey example. So this is the survey example of earthwork. Okay. This is how it looks like the earthwork survey example. So this earthwork survey plan was is of Hadley Castle, showing features A to S mentioned in the text. So this was the castle, and you can see the different points here where the different earthwork survey will be conducted. Okay. Then this is machine trenching. So you were looking for this test pit. So test pit are done much like manually. Machine trenching are actually bigger trenches. Okay, use cleared of machines. Then you do excavation and then you find something. Okay. Then we have a resistivity survey, which basically a current is passed through the ground. Then and the resistance of the ground is actually measured. So any change in resistance is basically indicating of something which tells us about that there may be something present in the ground which needs to look into. So this is basically a resistivity survey. So you can see the instrument here and the person which is carrying the instrument and the different survey which is being done. This is how resistivity excavation image of the western found part overlay of excavated part with subsurface resistivity image at 37 centimeter depth. Okay, So this is how the resistivity survey looks like. So this part, the resistance was different than this part. So these parts were actually excavated to look into. And this is the figure which you see here, excavated past. Okay. This is a magnetometer survey. This basically measures the magnetic characteristics of the ground. So anything deviation from the ground is actually recorded on the magnetometer, and then based on the readings we do the survey, we do the various, we take the what you say, we take various steps to recover the artifacts or something. Okay, so this is how a magnetometer survey looks like. So case study site in Wiltshire, UK. So you can see these are having a higher value than these sites. So there must be something. Okay. So cesium magnetometer survey and interpretation courtesy of Historic England, and the variation in zinc within the topsoil. This is auger survey. This is how a auger looks like. This is the auger. So if there is a river bed, so what it will do, let's say this is the river bed. Okay. So if this is the soil or something ground, the river will deposit sand above it. So you need to know the this feature. So you need to drill deep into it. So augers are like screws or something which goes down and then collect the sample, and then you can take it out and then study, collect the sample or something. So this is how it looks like, auger survey. Okay. So I think you must have got a good sense about these surveys, how these are conducted, what does these means actually, the meaning of these surveys. So this is what is basically important when you talk about different surveys to conduct. Okay. So let's see if there are any questions from the students. Okay. So I will take pause here so that you guys can ask questions if there are any questions which you want to ask. So you can see the different survey, auger survey, magnetometer survey, then we have resistivity survey, then machine trenching, earthwork survey, okay, test pitting. So all these are very important field survey techniques that are used for collecting the buried, or the magnetic properties of ground. Okay, so let's move to the next question then. What is the correct order of steps involved in human risk assessment by planning and scoping? So, first is hazard identification, second is exposure assessment, third is dose response assessment, and the fourth is risk characterization. So, this is how a human risk assessment actually is actually done. Okay. So, four steps of a human health risk assessment: hazard identification, dose response assessment, exposure assessment, risk characterization. Okay, so this has been directly taken from the slides itself. So, basically, you need to know what is the dose response and data collection exposure assessment. So, I put uh, two important videos here so you guys can actually relate to what does this mean actually. So this is the graph for different states here actually. So you can see the different states which are least developed in terms of industrialization or something. So they have got a poor multidimensional poverty index. And states which have invested more in education, health are actually having a good index, multidimensional poverty index. So this is how it is represented. So you can see the poorest, fastest. So you can easily relate this graph to the different states which are there in the India. So we need to put more focus on these states so that these states can move upward in the ladder, and then we can have a good score in the multidimensional poverty index. Okay, so I think this is self-explanatory. I need not discuss the dimension indicators again. So how multidimensional poverty index is different from human development index? So these are the indicators. Human development index is basically a long healthy life, knowledge and decent standard of living. So these two are actually very much also represent the same, but they use different indicators. Similarly, I think it's okay to discuss leave all these things. Okay, now the last question is physical displacement refers to the loss of housing resulting in project related acquisition of land, restriction on land use. So this is actually a true statement. Okay. So you can see here from the displacement, resettlement, social impact, displacement, physical displacement, all those things, economic displacement. So all those things have been discussed in the previous weekly lectures also. Hmm. Okay, this is 16. So for measuring wider economic impacts, multiplier approach, following methods are used. Economic based multiplier, input output model, Keynesian multiplier, all of the above. So correct answer is D, all of the above. Okay. Now, what are these multipliers? So, measuring the wider economic impact multiplier approach. There are three methods: economic based multiplier, input output model, Keynesian multiplier. So economic base multiplier is that you have a base, okay. So founded on the division of local economies into basic and non-basic activities. Basic activities are seen as motors of the economy. Non-basic activities support the population associated with basic activities. The ratio of basic to non-basic activity usually measured in employment terms is used for prediction purpose. Thus, as X increase in basic employment may generate Y increase in non-basic employment. So model has advantage, disadvantages of simplicity also. Okay. Then flow in the extended input output model. So different input output cases are considered, and then the economic terms is measured. Keynesian multiplier is then there are two multipliers. So YR is the change in level of income of the region, J is the initial income of the region, okay, and KR is the regional income multiplier. So this is how economic impact is actually measured. So money injected into economic system, whether national or regional, will cause an increase in level of income in that system by some multiple of the original injection. This is how it is done. Okay, so these are some additional contents for your study, so you can go through them. I put a EIA report also. Thank you all for this live session. If there are any queries, please feel free to write to me at this email address. Otherwise, you can ask your questions at the discussion forum. And thank you all. We will meet again on the next Tuesday from 7 to 9. Thank you.